The colony station, Horizon 5, was a place of quiet order, especially at midnight. Deep in the hum of the engineering block, Ryan Hale found comfort in his routines. He was a simple maintenance engineer, a man who preferred the company of tools and old music to people. His life was predictable, stable, and wonderfully silent. Until tonight. Ryan was at his workbench, focused on repairing a delicate micromotor, when a sound broke the stillness. A soft, hesitant knock on his metal door. Not the digital chime, not a system alert, but a physical knock. On a space station, no one knocked. It was archaic, inefficient. It meant something was urgent or something was very, very wrong. He froze, tool in hand. The knock came again, slower this time, almost fearful. Ryan moved cautiously to the door camera. The screen was a mess of static, flickering lines cutting through the image. Impossible. Station cameras never glitched. They were hardwired to the security core. A cold knot formed in his chest. Unlocking the heavy physical bolts, he cracked the door open just a sliver. And there she was, a young alien woman standing in the cold, metallic hallway. Her clothes were torn and strange, glowing marks, like rivers of blue and silver light, pulsed beneath her skin. Her hair was a mess, and her hands trembled as she clutched the door frame for support. When she finally looked up, her voice was a mere whisper. "I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet. Please help me." The words were so strange, so out of place. Her eyes darted around the hallway, searching the shadows as if she expected something to leap out at any moment. Confused but on high alert, Ryan opened the door wider. "Are you injured?" he asked. She didn't seem to understand, instead stumbling inside, keeping her back to the hall until the heavy door was sealed and locked behind her. Only then did she let out a shaky breath. She stood near his workbench, the glowing lines on her arms pulsing in a chaotic rhythm. "Who are you?" Ryan asked, his voice steady. She lowered her head. "Sayla," she whispered. Her voice was trained, soft, calm, almost unnervingly obedient, but her eyes screamed a different story, one of sharp, immediate terror. Ryan handed her a clean towel. She hesitated, as if waiting for permission, before finally taking it and wrapping it around her arms. Suddenly, the hallway lights flickered. Once, then twice. The power grid in his block was flawless. Ryan knew every circuit. Something was fundamentally wrong. Sayla shrank back from the door, her eyes wide with panic. "They are here," she whispered. "Who?" Ryan pressed. She didn't answer. Instead, her gaze swept across his workshop, cataloging every corner, every tool, every shadow, as if searching for an escape route. Just then, his wall console flashed a silent alert. Unauthorized ships had docked with the station. No ID codes. The alert flickered and then vanished, scrubbed from the system as if someone was actively blocking it. Ryan swallowed hard. Unknown ships meant pirates or worse. He turned back to the terrified woman. "Are they after you?" She gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Yes." A heavy, rhythmic thud echoed down the hall. Not footsteps, the sound of heavy boots. Several sets. Slow, measured, searching. Sayla instinctively moved closer, almost hiding behind Ryan. It was a strange sight. She clearly didn't trust humans, yet here she was, seeking refuge with one as her only hope. "What did you do?" he asked, his voice low. "Why are they after you?" She didn't answer his question. Instead, she repeated the only words she seemed to know, a mantra of desperation. "I can cook, I can clean, I can be quiet, I do not bring trouble." Her voice was so small, so broken, it twisted something inside him. This wasn't an act, this was pure, unadulterated fear. A loud, metallic crash came from down the hall, followed by another. The hunters were breaking down doors room by room. He looked at Sayla. She kept her eyes fixed on the floor, as if she fully expected him to cast her out, to hand her over. He should call security. He shouldn't get involved. But he was human, and humans at their core helped. "Hide there." He pointed to a dark corner behind some storage crates. "Behind the crates." She obeyed instantly, moving with the silent grace of a shadow, curling into a small, unnoticeable ball. Ryan stood between her hiding spot and the door, his tools now potential weapons. He wasn't a fighter, but he was an engineer, and an engineer knows his environment. The steps grew louder. A harsh, alien voice barked commands in a language he didn't recognize. The sound made Sela tremble uncontrollably. An energy blast hit the room next door and a scream was cut short. They were getting closer. Ryan's heart hammered against his ribs. He had no idea who Sela was or what he'd just invited into his quiet, orderly life. But he knew one thing for certain. Tonight, everything had changed. And the danger was already at his door. The corridor went dead silent, a heavy, unnatural stillness that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I froze, listening. Nothing. Sela, crouched by the crates, seemed to hold her breath, the soft glow of her skin dimming as if trying to vanish. My door cam was fried, just static, but I could feel a vibration through the floor. Heavy, rhythmic footsteps. Someone was hunting. I gave Sela a quick signal to stay put and hurried to my workstation, fumbling with a broken fusion coil. Big enough to look like a tool, heavy enough to be a weapon. Just as I set it down, the knock came. Not a normal knock. It was a hard, metallic thud. Security never knocked like that. I cracked the door open. 3 of them stood there. Tall, armored aliens. Dark plating lined with ominous red stripes. Their helmets were smooth, featureless, hiding whatever was inside. Each carried a nasty-looking weapon, a cross between a spear and a rifle. The leader's voice was as cold and flat as the metal he was wearing. Human technician. A subject escaped detention. Confirm if any unknown beings pass through your sector. I kept my face a perfect blank. Been working, I said. Haven't seen anyone. He tilted his head, a device in his hand buzzing as it scanned my room. It flickered over the crates where Sela was hiding, but my scattered tools on the floor seemed to interfere with the signal. The scanner glitched. He tapped it, annoyed. Your sector camera is offline, he stated. I shrugged. Old wiring. This whole block is overdue for repairs. He stared at me for a long, heavy moment. Then, if you see the subject, report immediately. She is not a person, she is property. Dangerous property. Behind the crates, I saw Sela flinch. The soldiers turned and marched off, their heavy boots echoing down the hall until the silence returned. I shut the door, locked it, bolted it, and finally let out the breath I'd been holding. Sela emerged, her glowing marks flaring back to life, but this time they were shaky. They will not stop, she whispered. They will search every level, every room. That's when I noticed it, a broken metal plate on her neck stamped with alien symbols. A tag, like she was some kind of product. What are you running from? I asked quietly. She wrapped her arms around herself. I was made, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Not born, designed in a Dominion lab. They create hybrids for specific tasks. I was made to serve, to obey. She took a shuddering breath. But inside me, they placed something else, something they now want back. I leaned in. What is it? She closed her eyes. I hold a memory core, a locked one. The Dominion calls it the key. A key to what? My chest tightened. Her eyes met mine, filled with a mix of fear and shame. A weapon, she said. A weapon large enough to destroy whole colonies, maybe more. I stumbled back. They weren't hunting a runaway servant. They were hunting a living vault containing the key to a superweapon. How did you escape? I asked. I wasn't supposed to, she said, touching her temple. Something inside my mind woke. A flash, a warning, then I just ran. I only know that if they take me back, they will open the memory, and the galaxy will burn. The glowing lines on her skin pulsed with her fear. I started pacing. I'm an engineer, not a hero. But this was a system on the verge of catastrophic failure. The Dominion wasn't just after her. They were going to use her, and humanity's colonies were right in the blast zone. What do you need from me? She looked stunned, as if no one had ever asked her that question before. I need safety, she whispered. Time. I need someone to believe me. Just then, my console beeped. My stomach dropped. Multiple Dominion squads were sealing the station's outer ring. They weren't searching anymore. They were closing in. "They are sealing the exits," Sela whispered, her eyes wide. I scrambled for my tool bag, pulling out thermal cutters, pulse dampeners, anything I could use. "You are preparing to fight," she said, surprised. "I'm preparing to think," I shot back. "Humans don't win with strength. We win with messy, unpredictable ideas." A distant explosion shook the station. They were breaking through. I looked at Sela. "You said you need someone to believe you. Fine, I believe you. So listen carefully, we are getting out of here." She just blinked. "Why?" she asked. I slung my tool bag over my shoulder. "Because humans don't hand people over to monsters." The lights flickered. Heavy boots thundered down our corridor. A robotic voice announced, "Subject detected, closing distance." I grabbed her hand. "Run." And for the first time, I saw something in her eyes besides fear. Hope. The station alarms were dead silent, but I knew we were in deep trouble. The Dominion doesn't need alarms. Their soldiers move like ghosts, fast, quiet, and brutally efficient. I grabbed Sela's arm and pulled her into the narrow maintenance corridor hidden behind my workshop. Just then, the hallway lights flickered in a slow, deliberate pattern. I knew what it meant. "They're cutting power to the outer grid," I told her. Sela nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "They always do this. Darkness makes it easier for them. Fear makes people obey." I didn't have time to reply. My focus was on survival. I located a metal hatch on the wall, yanked it open, and waved Sela inside. The shaft was tight and choked with dust, but it was our best shot. A direct route into the engineering spine of Horizon 5, and most importantly, off the main cameras. Sela moved with a surprising grace, like she was born for these tight spaces. I followed close behind, sealing the hatch after us. As we crawled deeper, we could hear them. Harsh alien commands echoed through the metal walls, the thud of heavy boots, the low hum of powered weapons. Every sound felt like cold fingers crawling up my spine. "They're sweeping every room," Sela whispered, her voice trembling. I nodded. "They won't expect us in here, only engineers use these tunnels." Suddenly, a loud crash shook the wall right beside us. Sela froze, her breath caught in her throat. A Dominion soldier had just kicked down a nearby door. He was so close I could hear the scrape of his armor against the floor. Sela flattened herself against the pipe, trying to become invisible. The glowing lines on her skin dimmed, almost vanishing completely. I leaned in, my voice urgent but low. "Keep moving. Quiet." We crawled for what felt like an eternity until the tunnel opened onto a higher maintenance deck. The air was warmer here, filled with the distant hum of the station's core. We could finally stand upright. Sela climbed out, her steps almost silent, scanning the shadows like a cornered animal. "What do they want from you?" I asked, needing to understand what we were up against. She swallowed hard, her eyes fixed on the floor. "The memory core, in my mind. It has star maps, weapon plans, activation codes. The Dominion wants to unlock it." She hesitated, her voice dropping. "But my body won't survive the process." My blood ran cold, then hot with anger. "So they're just going to kill you for what's in your head?" Sela nodded, her expression bleak. "To them, I am not alive. I am equipment." I clenched my jaw. Humans have plenty of flaws, but we'd never accept the idea of a person as just property. Before I could say anything, the deck lights snapped off, plunging us into total darkness. Sela gasped. "They cut this zone." My hand instinctively went to the emergency lamp on my belt. I flicked it on, casting a small, pale circle of light that made the shadows around us seem deeper, more menacing. And then we heard it. A deep, metallic scraping sound, getting closer. "Hunters," Sela whispered, her voice filled with a new kind of terror. I'd only heard rumors about Dominion hunters, not just soldiers. They were enhanced, faster, stronger, built for one purpose, to chase and capture targets like Sela. "We need to move," I said, pulling her toward the far door, but as it slid open, I froze. 3 of them stood at the end of the corridor, tall, silent silhouettes, their dark armor reflecting my weak lamplight. Their helmets had narrow red slits that glowed like predatory eyes. They blocked our only way out. Sella's breath hitched. They found us. The hunters raised their weapons, long spears that crackled with energy. One spoke, its voice a cold, distorted rasp. Subject identified. Humans nearby will be removed. Without thinking, I stepped in front of Sella. I held the lamp in one hand and raised the only thing I had in the other, my plasma spanner. It wasn't a weapon, but I knew humans don't survive by fighting fair. We survive by thinking fast. The corridor lights flickered back on for a split second, and in that flash, I saw it. A loose steam valve on the ceiling right above them. I aimed my lamp at it, then threw the plasma spanner with everything I had. It hit the valve dead on. The pipe burst and boiling steam exploded downward, filling the corridor with a blinding white fog. The hunters roared in surprise as their visors clouded over. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing Sella's arm. We sprinted into the scalding mist, coughing, our eyes burning until we reached a side door I knew well, an access hatch to the ventilation arcs. Behind us, we could hear the hunters smashing through pipes, shouting commands. The steam was already clearing. They'd see our escape route in seconds. I ripped the hatch open and shoved Sella inside. The vents were narrow and curved, a hidden highway across the station. We ran, our footsteps echoing in the metal tube. Sella's breath shook, not just from the run, but from fear. "They will follow," she whispered. A grim smile touched my lips. "Good," I said. "I want them to follow." She looked at me, confused. I pointed ahead. At the end of the arc, a faint red glow pulsed. The energy recycling chamber, dangerously hot, unstable, and the perfect trap. "You're planning something," Sela realized. "Humans always plan something," I replied. Behind us, the vents shook as the hunters entered the tunnel. We could hear the crackle of their energy weapons charging. Sela stared at me, her eyes wide. But this time it wasn't just fear I saw. It was trust. I tightened my grip on my tool bag as the hunters closed in, their heavy steps making the whole structure vibrate. Sela whispered, "What now?" I looked her right in the eye, my voice steady and calm. "Now we show them why humans are not easy prey." And with the hunters just seconds behind us, I led Sela straight into the dangerous heart of the station, where one wrong move meant death, but one smart move meant freedom. Thanks for joining me on this crazy escape. If you want to see what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. I'll see you in the next one. The energy recycling chamber was one of the most dangerous areas in Horizon 5. Even the station's own engineers rarely set foot in here. The air was scorching hot, dry, and filled with this low, constant hum, like a giant creature was sleeping just behind the walls. I stepped inside first, my eyes scanning the room. Massive rings of pure red energy pulsed around us, feeding power directly into the station's main core. Thick, heavy cables crisscrossed the ceiling like giant metal vines, and you could see the heat waves shimmering just above the floor. Sela followed me in, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. "This place, it feels alive." "It almost is," I told her. "One wrong touch, and those arcs will burn straight through your armor, your skin, everything." Just then we heard it. The heavy, clanking movements of the hunters echoing down the ventilation shafts. They were close. Too close. I rushed over to a control panel and started pulling wires with fast, practiced hands. "We don't have much time. Once they drop into this chamber, we're going to trap them here." Sela watched me, confused but trusting. The glowing lines on her skin flickered, a telltale sign of her growing anxiety. "They'll break out," she whispered. "I know," I said, not looking up from my work. "But we won't be here when they do." She stepped closer. "Why are you helping me? You could just walk away. Pretend I never came to your door." I didn't stop what I was doing. "Because you didn't ask to be hunted. You didn't choose what they put inside your mind." My voice was calm, but inside I was furious. The Dominion forces acted like gods. creating life, controlling it, destroying it on a whim. I hated that kind of absolute power. Sela lowered her gaze. The memory core, it's not just storage. It's alive in a way. It reacts to danger. It reacts to emotion. That's why I escaped. I slowed down and turned to face her. Explain. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. I was made in the Dominion's Biolab 7, she began, her voice soft but steady. There were many like me, hybrids created for labor, service, and silence. We were taught to follow orders before we even learned to speak. They told us we were tools, not people. I frowned, but I let her continue. When I reached maturity, they installed the memory core. They said it was a test, but I heard whispers. They planned to use the core to unlock a hidden weapon. A device from an old war, so powerful that even the Dominion was afraid of it. Her hands started to tremble. I was the only hybrid whose brain structure was a perfect match for the core. I became the key. Her voice cracked on that last word. I took a step closer. So the core woke you up? Yes, she whispered. One night I saw a flash in my mind. Images I didn't understand. Stars, planets, a beam of light cutting across space. Destruction on a scale I'd never seen. Then a voice spoke inside my head. A voice? I repeated. Sela nodded. Not a real voice. More like a warning. Run. Just one word, over and over, run. The glowing lines on her arms pulsed faster, reacting to the memory. I obeyed it, she said. For the first time in my life, I obeyed something other than the Dominion. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, scared, unsure, hoping I didn't see her as a monster. That's my truth. I escaped because something inside me told me the Dominion will use me to destroy worlds. I can't let that happen. I studied her face. There was no lie in her eyes. Only fear. Only truth. And something else. Something she probably didn't even recognize in herself. Courage. Before I could say anything, the metal ceiling above us cracked open. A heavy thud shook dust from the pipes. Another. Then a third. They're coming down, I said. Sela flinched, fear locking her body in place. Hunters don't fear heat. They don't fear danger. They will fear losing control, I replied. They can't fight what they don't understand. I slammed the final wire into place and yanked down a massive lever. Instantly, the energy rings flared, flooding the chamber with blinding red light. The temperature shot up. The first hunter dropped from the vent, landing in a crouch. Its armor glowed from the intense heat, but it stood, unaffected. Two more dropped beside it, their red visor slits locking onto us. The lead hunter spoke, its voice like distant thunder. Subject Sela, surrender. Human, step aside. You will not be harmed. I stepped in front of Sela. No. The hunter tilted its helmet. You protect a biological weapon? I gripped my tool bag. I protect a person. The hunter did not like that. Energy rippled along its spear as it took aim. But I wasn't finished. I slammed my palm against a secondary control panel. The floor beneath the hunters glowed bright red as the metal superheated and began to expand. They staggered, their armor's sensors going haywire from the heat, causing feedback loops. Their visors flickered. I grabbed Sela's hand. Now! We sprinted for the chamber's emergency exit. Behind us, the hunters roared and lunged, but their movements were slow, like machines fighting corrupted code. The chamber shook violently. Sela looked back once, and for the first time, I didn't see fear in her eyes. It was determination. She tightened her grip on my hand and we ran faster. We burst through the emergency door just as the chamber lights overloaded, washing the room behind us in blinding white. The hunters' voices echoed, distorted and furious. I slammed the door and threw the manual lock. For a moment, we just stood there in the dim hallway catching our breath. Our escape was far from over. They would break out soon. Sela turned to me, her voice trembling. You saw the truth. I am the key, but I don't want to be the weapon. I nodded. Then we'll fight the ones who want to use you. She just stared at me, shocked, grateful. Behind us, a massive boom hit the chamber door. They were almost through. I grabbed her arm. "No more running," I said. "Now we fight smart." And together we sprinted deeper into the station toward whatever came next. This is just the beginning of our story. If you're as hooked as I am, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what happens next. The metal floor shook as Ryan dragged Sela down the narrow industrial hallway. Behind them, the massive chamber door groaned, buckling under the raw strength of the hunters. They had minutes, maybe less. Sela's glowing lines pulsed with alarm. "They will break out soon," she whispered. "I know," Ryan said, his voice sharp but steady. "Good thing I know this station better than they ever will." They burst onto a wide engineering platform, a sprawling chaos of thick cables, coolant tanks, and shimmering energy conduits. This was Ryan's domain, messy, unpredictable, and always under repair. To the organized Dominion soldiers, it would be a nightmare. Ryan's eyes scanned the deck, seeing 100 problems and 100 opportunities. Loose panels, overloaded coils, broken rails, old gravity regulators. Sela watched him, her confusion plain. "You are planning again," she said softly. Ryan offered a grim smile. "Humans always plan," he replied, "especially when we're about to be hunted by alien super soldiers." Just then, a deafening metallic boom echoed from the hallway. The hunters were through. Their heavy, deliberate footsteps began to spread across the deck. They weren't rushing. They didn't need to. They believed nothing could hide from them. Sela's breath hitched. "They are splitting up, 2 on the left, 1 above. They are surrounding us." Her senses were sharper than any scanner, and Ryan trusted them completely. "Good," he muttered. "Let them think they're winning." He pulled a small, unstable pulse coil from his tool bag and jammed it into a rusted coolant panel. Sela blinked. "What are you doing?" "Making things messy." The coil flashed, and the coolant tank burst with a violent spray of freezing mist. The walkway instantly became a fog-covered landscape of ice and shattered metal. The first hunter stepped into the fog and slipped. The colossal alien slammed onto his back, his armor cracking against the deck. Sela gasped. She had never seen a hunter fall. Ryan's grin was small but triumphant. "They're strong. They're fast, but they don't understand messy engineering." The fallen hunter roared in fury, trying to get up, but the icy surface offered no grip. He fired his weapon blindly into the mist. 2 more hunters appeared, moving with more caution. Their scanners struggled to penetrate the unstable fog. Ryan pulled Sela behind a heavy reactor conduit. "Stay low." He grabbed a magnetic pulse node and threw it down the walkway. It hit the metal floor and activated with a powerful wham. Every loose metal object, tools, rails, scraps, panels, was ripped from its place, flying toward the node in a high-speed storm of steel. The hunters were caught completely off guard as the debris smashed into their armor. One was driven to his knees, pinned by the sheer weight. Another struggled to move forward against the intense magnetic drag. Sela stared in awe. Humans use tools like weapons. "No," Ryan corrected her calmly. "We turn problems into weapons." But the pinned hunter wasn't finished. With a roar of pure strength, he broke free from the magnetic pull and rose to his feet. Sela's voice was a tense whisper. "They are still coming." "I expected that." Ryan pulled her across a different catwalk as the hunters gave chase. Fast, efficient, unstoppable. The walkway shook under their combined weight. They were closing in. Ryan reached a control panel and ripped it open, sparks flying in his face. "Ryan," Sela urged, "they're almost here." "I know," he said, twisting 2 wires together and slamming a lever down. "Time to use the gravity regulators." The walkway's gravity flickered, then reversed. Everything loose flew upward. Dust, broken cables, tools, all floating in the air. The hunters stumbled, their heavy armor completely unsuited for rapid gravity shifts. One grabbed a railing while the others flailed, trying to stabilize themselves. The gravity twisted again, nearly throwing Ryan and Sela sideways. "Stay close," Ryan yelled. He grabbed Sela and jumped off the catwalk just as the gravity flipped a third time. They landed on a lower service platform as the hunters were hurled into the ceiling with a thunderous crash. Armor dented. Sensors flickered. One hunter's visor cracked. Sela stared up in shock. "You defeated them." "No," Ryan said quickly. "I slowed them. They'll get up in seconds." He was right. The hunters dropped from the ceiling, landing hard but alive. Their armor sparked, their movements now rough and jerky. They were angry, very angry. Sela grabbed his arm. "They are charging power. They will not play anymore. They will kill everything in their path." Ryan's eyes darted around the deck. Pipes, tanks. And then he saw it. The old, unstable, pressurized air system. Perfect. He ran toward it, pulling Sela along. The hunters followed, weapons glowing hot, ready to end the chase for good. Ryan reached the massive air cylinder and wrenched the primary valve open. Air howled out, shaking the platform. "What are you doing?" Sela yelled over the noise. "Creating wind," Ryan shouted back. He hit the emergency release. The pressure roared, turning the cylinder into a massive air cannon. The blast hit the hunters like a hurricane, throwing them backward across the deck into a tangle of collapsing support beams. Ryan shut the valve before the system could overheat. The hunters were down again, but their armor still glowed, damaged but operational. Sela watched them struggle to rise. "They cannot be stopped for long," she whispered. "Then we don't stop them," Ryan said. "We escape." "And go where?" He pointed to a distant service elevator. "Up, to the docking bay, to my ship." Sela stared at him. "You mean to leave the station?" "Yes," Ryan said grimly. "Because this station won't survive them." Behind them a hunter roared, ripping a broken beam off his body. Their time was up. Ryan grabbed Sela's hand. "This is where human ingenuity ends," he said, his voice low and firm, "and where human courage begins." They ran for the elevator as the hunters rose once more, angrier and more determined than ever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you next time. The service elevator groaned, shaking as it climbed through the thin metal shaft. I held the side rail with one hand, and Sela's wrist with the other. The glowing lines on her skin pulsed faster than I'd ever seen them, almost blinding. "They are following," she whispered, her voice tight with fear. I didn't need sensors to confirm it. The heavy, rhythmic stomps of the hunters echoed from below, getting closer with every agonizing second. Their armored claws scraped against the shaft walls as they climbed, sounding like machines built for one purpose: war. I slammed my fist on the control panel again. Come on, faster." The elevator groaned in protest, but its speed lurched upwards. Sparks rained down from the cable above. Sela touched her temples, her eyes squeezed shut. "I can feel them," she said, her voice strained. "Their minds are focused only on me. Their scanners are locked on my signature." I glanced at her glowing arms. "Can you hide your glow?" She shook her head. "I can try, but the core inside me reacts to danger. The more danger, the brighter it becomes." I frowned, a cold dread creeping up my spine. Then what happens if it gets too bright? Sela opened her eyes, and the fear I saw there made my blood run cold. "It unlocks." Before I could even ask what that meant, the elevator shuddered to a halt. The doors hissed open, revealing a dim cargo hallway. Red emergency lights pulsed softly, painting the walls in blood-like strokes. I grabbed Sela's hand and pulled her into a run. The docking bay was close, only 2 corridors away. But the station was no longer quiet. Screams echoed from distant halls, followed by the crash of metal and the tremor of shaking walls. Smoke snaked through the vents. The Dominion soldiers weren't just hunting Sela anymore. They were sweeping the entire sector, eliminating anyone in their path. "Stay close," I ordered, tightening my grip on her hand. We moved fast, but as we rounded a corner, Sela staggered, her knees hitting the floor with a thud. I dropped beside her instantly. "Sela!" She clutched her head, her glowing lines flaring a brilliant, painful white. "It's happening," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The core, it's waking." Panic clawed at my chest. "Can you stop it?" No, her voice cracked. Not anymore. She gasped, her back arching as a wave of light pulsed through her veins. Her breathing became sharp and uneven. Images flashed in her eyes, reflections of memories that weren't her own. I gripped her shoulders, trying to ground her. Stay with me. What do you see? Her voice shook violently. Stars. Burning. A weapon above them, a beam, a giant machine, a sky turning to fire. Her head snapped back as another pulse of light shot through her skin. The weapon. It's real, she whispered. And the Dominion wants it. The maps are inside my mind, the locations, the activation code. A cold realization washed over me. The core is trying to show you. Sela nodded weakly. Yes. But the hunters will sense this. They will know the core has activated. As if on cue, a deafening metallic roar echoed down the hallway. It was close. I pulled Sela to her feet. She swayed, but I supported her weight, draping her arm over my shoulder. We need to move now, I said, my voice grim. We tried to run, but Sela stumbled with each step, her body fighting an internal war. The glowing lines on her skin became brighter still, cutting through the red hallway like white fire. I turned a corner and froze. A hunter stood in the middle of the hallway, weapon raised, its armor cracked but still deadly. Its visor glowed like burning coals. Subject Sela, core activity detected, surrender. I instinctively stepped between them. No. The hunter tilted its head, a strangely human-like gesture for such a monstrous machine. You protect her. Why? She's not a weapon, I shot back. She's a person. The hunter's grip tightened on its spear. Incorrect. My eyes darted around, searching for an escape, an advantage. I saw it. A loose power cable dangling just above a puddle of coolant. A trap waiting to be sprung. I just had to lure it closer. But then Sela took a step forward. Her eyes were wide, unfocused, and glowing with that same strange white light. Sela, no. I whispered, but she didn't hear me. Her voice changed, becoming deeper, resonant, like two tones speaking at once. I am not property, she declared. The hunter hesitated. As Sela's core pulsed, the station lights flickered, and the hunter's own armor sensors glitched. It wasn't just tracking her physically. Her activated core was disrupting its technology. Sela lifted a trembling hand. You are hurting people, she whispered. Hurting me. The hunter raised its spear. Core must be secured. That was my chance. I lunged forward, yelling, Hey! The hunter turned slightly, just enough. I grabbed the hanging cable and slammed it into the coolant. Electricity exploded across the floor. The hunter convulsed, armor sparking violently before its lights flickered out and it collapsed. Silence. I rushed to Sela as her legs gave out, catching her in my arms. Her skin was burning hot. What's happening to you? I asked, my voice laced with panic. She touched her temple weakly. The core, it is opening faster. I cannot stop it. I cannot control the images. I held her tighter. What do you see now? Her eyes unfocused again. A star system. Hidden. Locked away. A giant ring around a sun. Something sleeping inside. Waiting. Then she whispered words that chilled me to the bone. It will awaken soon. Heavy footsteps thundered behind us, 2 more hunters. I lifted Sela into my arms. We're almost there. Stay with me. The docking bay doors were just 1 hallway away, but as she leaned her head against my shoulder, her voice trembled. Ryan, if the core fully unlocks, the Dominion won't be the only danger. I ran faster. We'll handle it. Together. No, Sela whispered. You don't understand. Her eyes turned a solid glowing white, so bright they lit up the entire hallway. When the core unlocks, I change. The hunters roared behind us. I burst through the final doorway. Ahead of me, my ship waited. Behind me, a storm was coming. And beside me, Sela was becoming something more powerful and far more dangerous than either of us had ever imagined. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. See you next time. Ryan carried Sela into the docking bay. His small ship stood at the center, lights blinking, engine humming with readiness. But Sela was getting worse. The glowing lines on her skin spread like fire across her arms and face. Her eyes were bright white, almost blinding. The alien core inside her was on the verge of unlocking its full power. Sela's voice was a shaking whisper. "I can't hold it. The core is trying to open fully." Ryan gently set her down inside the ship's cockpit. "You can hold it. Just a little longer. We leave now." But before he could even power up the thrusters, the massive bay doors shook violently. 3 Dominion hunters smashed their way in. Their armor was cracked from a previous fight, but their weapons glowed with menacing energy. They were damaged, angry, and here to finish the mission. The lead hunter pointed a glowing blade at Sela. "Subject detected. Eliminate resistance." Ryan stepped out of the ship, planting himself firmly between Sela and the hunters. No fear, no hesitation. "You want her," he said, his voice steady. "You come through me." The hunters raised their weapons in unison. Ryan's hand moved to his belt, pulling a small, unassuming device. A human-made pulse detonator. It was weak on its own, but he wasn't planning on using it alone. "Humans don't fight fair," he said with a grim smile. He threw the detonator across the floor, then snatched a metal rod from a nearby toolkit. With a sharp crack, he struck a large fuel tank. The tank split, and volatile fuel spilled across the cold metal floor, spreading toward the advancing hunters. They took another step forward, ignoring the danger. Ryan triggered the detonator. A deafening blast of light and air erupted, throwing all 3 hunters backward. Their armor sparked and shorted out. Sensors failed. 2 of the hunters collapsed, stunned and twitching. The third staggered, but its relentless programming pushed it forward, its armor smoking. Ryan wiped a trickle of blood from his forehead. He reached into his tool bag and pulled out a simple plasma cutter. Small, designed for repairs, but in human hands it was deadly. The last hunter charged, roaring with fury. Sela cried out from the ship. "Ryan! Hang on!" he shouted back. The hunter swung its spear in a deadly arc. Ryan dodged, ducking under the weapon, and slammed the superheated tip of the plasma cutter into a gap in the hunter's armor. A shower of sparks burst forth. The hunter roared in pain and fell to one knee. Ryan pushed harder, melting through the complex circuitry beneath the armor plating. The hunter collapsed, lifeless. He sprinted back to the ship, but Sela wasn't where he left her. She was floating. Her feet hovered inches above the deck. Her body glowed brighter than ever, a beacon of pure energy. The core was fully unlocking. A powerful wind whipped through the bay, pulling loose tools and debris toward her, as if gravity itself was bending around her. Her voice echoed in the chaos. "Ryan, I cannot stop it." He ran to her, grabbing her shoulders to ground her. "Look at me. You are not a weapon. You are not their property. You control the core, not them." Her breath hitched. "I'm afraid." Ryan pulled her close, his voice firm. "Then use that fear. Use it to fight back. Humans don't run from danger. We face it." Her wild white glow began to change. It softened, focused, becoming controlled. For the first time, she pushed back against the core's immense power with her own will. I can control it," she whispered, her eyes meeting his, "because you believe in me." Just then, the entire station shook as Dominion reinforcements burst through the far wall. An entire squad of soldiers marched in, weapons raised. Rian moved in front of Sela again. "Stay behind me." But Sela placed a hand on his arm, her touch calm and steady. "No, this time I protect you." She lifted her hand toward the Dominion troops. A wave of pure white light exploded outward. It wasn't fire. It wasn't destruction. It was a targeted energy pulse that hit their armor systems, shutting them down instantly. Weapons went dark. Helmet visors cracked. The soldiers fell to their knees, their advanced technology rendered useless. The hunters were stunned, helpless. Ryan stared in shock. "You did that?" Sela nodded slowly. "Yes, and I can do more, but only to defend, not to destroy." He guided her into the ship. As they lifted off, the bay doors sealed shut behind them, leaving the disabled Dominion forces shouting in their wake. Ryan looked over at Sela. Her glow had faded, and her breathing was calm. "You saved us," he said, his voice filled with awe. Sela looked down at her hands. No, we saved each other. The stars filled the windows as they escaped into the vastness of open space. Ryan set a new course, a destination he'd only just learned of. Where are we going? Sela asked softly. Ryan's gaze was fixed on the star charts ahead. To find the weapon your core showed you and to stop it, because humans fight back, always. Sela rested her head on his shoulder. Then we do it together. The ship jumped into the dark, leaving the Dominion far behind, and a new, uncertain future waiting just ahead.